Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Morning Musings. Welcome back to me. It's been about a month since I was with you regularly to discuss our topic of the resurrection. It's so very, very good to be back. I want to thank Daniel Rogers for filling in for me so admirably. If you haven't watched the series on Psalms 23, you need to do that. But as you probably know, I've been gone to be with my wife for her cancer treatments. I am thrilled beyond words, naturally, to say that she has finished all of that. It was an abbreviated treatment because the doctors say they are 99.9% certain that they got all of the cancer. She got to ring the bell at the Cancer Treatment Center there in Tulsa, Oklahoma, indicating, number one, that her treatments were over, number two, that she's been declared cancer-free. So again, we are thankful to the Lord for his blessings in this regard. And thank you, so many of you, for your wonderful expressions of concern and for your prayers during this, what has been and continues to a certain extent to be a very, very difficult situation in our family. But again, it's so very, very good to be back with you. I want to pick up today with our study of the resurrection of 1 Corinthians chapter 15. A little bit of a reminder. We've been spending a good bit of time on demonstrating that the resurrection of 1 Corinthians 15 would be in fulfillment of several Old Covenant prophecies given to Israel after the flesh, concerning the last days and concerning the resurrection. Pardon me. We spent some time on Isaiah, demonstrating that the passage that Paul quotes from, Isaiah 25:8, is couched within the context of what's known as the little apocalypse. And there's not one thing in Isaiah 24-27 that lends credence to the idea of a literal raising of biological bodies out of the dust. It's highly metaphoric language. It's apocalyptic language. That's why Isaiah 24-27 is called the little apocalypse. We have shown that Isaiah 24-27 at least three times, places that coming resurrection firmly within the context of the time of the judgment of Old Covenant Israel, the judgment of Old Covenant Israel for shedding innocent blood. Well, Jesus tells us when that would be in Matthew 23. It would be in AD 70. We have likewise examined Hosea chapter 13 and the context of Hosea 13. We have shown that Hosea 13, the only death that is mentioned in the context, the death that was to be overcome by the resurrection that is foretold, was a corporate death of Israel, alienation from God for violating Torah. Israel was Adam, or was in Adam, just like all mankind. And so here we have depicted the deliverance of from the death of Adam. Well, what was the death of Adam? Alienation from God, not biological death. And, pardon me, we spent a little bit of time on Daniel chapter 12, demonstrating that Daniel chapter 12 lies behind so many of the New Testament passages regarding resurrection. I demonstrated for you the perfect correlation between Daniel chapter 12 and 1 Corinthians chapter 15. There is absolutely no doubt whatsoever that Daniel 12 is one of the sources for Paul's resurrection doctrine in 1 Corinthians 15. Now, what's absolutely amazing and sad to me is that we have people that claim to be the final authority on what preterism is all about. They're former preterists, for crying out loud. Well, on the one hand, they've told us, well, you know, Daniel chapter 12 has nothing to do with the final resurrection of 1 Corinthians 15. Oh, but wait. Then they tell us, yeah, Daniel chapter 12 is very clearly the resurrection of 1 Corinthians 15. Oh, and then they tell us, well, Daniel chapter 12 began to be fulfilled in the personal ministry of Jesus when through the preaching of the gospel people were being delivered from sin. In other words, it's not the resurrection of 1 Corinthians 15 after all. And we are told that Daniel chapter 12 predicted the time of Antiochus Epiphanes. Oh, but wait, verse 2 is a parenthetical insertion into the text of Daniel chapter 12. And it really is, after all, a prediction of the resurrection at the so-called end of time. So those who are espousing that view, in order to avoid the power, the force, and the irrefutable nature of the correlation between Daniel chapter 12 and 1 Corinthians 15, what are they doing? They're telling us they are now adopting what, well, for lack of better terminology, the dispensational gap theory. They tell us that Daniel chapter 12 verse 1, and at that time there shall be great tribulation such as never been since the beginning of the foundation of the world, and no, never shall be, and your people who are written in the book shall be delivered. Ah, there we go. So the great tribulation was in the time of Antiochus Epiphanes. Those who were delivered at that time would ultimately, pardon me, at the end of time, verse 2, be raised from the dead. Gap. So there is, you know, in the period, at the end of verse 1, in that little dot, there is a so far 2,500 year gap. That's dispensationalism, pure and simple. Well, I could go on and on that. But the point of fact is, Daniel chapter 12 is in fact a prediction of the resurrection of 1 Corinthians 15. It is a prediction of the resurrection to eternal life, just like 1 Corinthians 15. It is a resurrection at the time of the end, Daniel chapter 12, verse 2. Just like 1 Corinthians 15 was a prediction of the resurrection at the end, 1 Corinthians 15, 21 and following. It is a prediction of the resurrection at the time of the kingdom, just like 1 Corinthians 15, resurrection at the time of the kingdom. It is the resurrection at the time of the end of the old covenant, which was the power of the holy people. Just like 1 Corinthians 15 predicted the resurrection when the law, that was the strength of sin, would be overcome. 1 Corinthians 15, 55 and 56. Once again, the parallels are absolutely perfect. And since the resurrection of Daniel chapter 12 would be at the end of Torah, and the resurrection of 1 Corinthians 15 would be when the power of the holy people is completely shattered, guess what? That means the resurrection was in AD 70. I developed this extensively in my book, The Resurrection of Daniel 12:2, Fulfilled or Future. As I've said before, there's not another book like this anywhere. It is the most extensive exposition and exegesis of Daniel chapter 12 as it underlies the entire New Testament doctrine of resurrection that you're going to find anywhere. Go to my website, BibleProphecy.com, DonKPreston.com, order the book. Send me a note that says you saw the offer on YouTube or Facebook, and I'll refund your shipping. That'll save you $5. Well, thank you so much for this morning's morning musings, which admittedly has been a bit of a review and recapitulation. On the flip side, we will show how Daniel chapter 12 serves as the foundation for the resurrection doctrine in Revelation. You don't want to miss it, so we'll see you on the flip side.